Oh, excuse me. I was just sharing on social media that the Garage Happy Hour is back. Welcome, everybody. Sam Masterson is our digital content coordinator. My name is Tom Ackerman, and this is the Garage Happy Hour. Welcome to my garage. What a beautiful day. We're live here on Thursday, April 15th, and it is a gorgeous day here in St. Louis. And it could not be a better day to bring back the Garage Happy Hour with a great friend. Please welcome Post-Dispatch columnist, like enough of me. This is all about Post-Dispatch columnist Benjamin Hochman, who is with us on the Garage Happy Hour. He joins us. I think you're right down the street, buddy. You don't live too far from me. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing really well. I'm honored to be on here. I was thinking about how you've had so many St. Louis sports celebrities on here. Pujols, Jackie Joyner Kersey, John Hamm, and I'm clearly the least famous person to ever be on this show.
Well, first of all, you are not correct there. You are a St. Louis sports celebrity. You are on the front of this Post-Dispatch sports page. I mean, that is a big, big deal. Let me ask you that right away before we get into all the chit-chat. Like, you grew up here. You're on the same space that Bernie Miklasz and all these great columnists. Like, what is that? Do you still pinch yourself when you see your picture on the paper?
Yeah, except when I'm at a coffee shop and there's a used paper and people have drawn a mustache or a devil's horns on my head. No, yeah, there's no question about it. Like, and I feel like you and I have a lot of the similar traits where we are professional journalists and we work our butts off and we take our jobs super serious. But there's no question that when I see myself in the newspaper, when you hear yourself on KMOX radio, I mean, that's as good as it gets in this town, and that's our stuff. You know, that's our stuff, St. Louis sports.
Yeah, no doubt. Like, it is a job, and for any young people watching who want to get into the business, I promise you it's fun. I mean, we have a good time, but it does take work. I'd say the easiest part is stuff like this, you know, where we can just be ourselves and talk, and you know, it's all the work leading up to this, the phone calls that we make, the contacts, the hours of planning and all that stuff. And now we can have fun. I recognize that background. That is the Ken Hochman background from stltoday.com. So you're doing something as well online. You actually do it Monday through Friday. This is just live on Thursdays. You do a Monday through Friday segment that people can just click and watch your thoughts on the topics of the day, right?
Yeah, it's super fun. We call it 10 Hochman because my name's Ben Hochman and it's on at 10 a.m. And it's literally this, a camera on me in this room. And it's super fun because it's a grab bag. One day it'll be, you know, breaking down the Cardinals' big win the night prior. The next day it's a homage to Bob Gibson because it's an anniversary of, like today was the anniversary of his first ever appearance in Major League Baseball. So I devoted the whole show to Bob Gibson. And then, you know, Blues, Billikens, Cardinals, Tigers, the whole thing. And then at the end of every show, we always pick a random St. Louis Cards card out of the hat. And then I share a memory I have of the random player from when I was a kid.
I used to have one of those, the old Cardinals cowboy hat helmet. Is that what
that's Gussie called? Bush, right?
Yeah. Oh, man. I love that. Did you collect baseball cards? You and I are about the same age. Did you collect baseball cards as a kid?
No question. I mean, I still have a stack right over here on my desk. But lately I've been into these new Topps pieces of art. Have you seen like the Project 2020?
Yeah, let me see.
They take an old card, like this is the glare. They take the old Bob Gibson and the artist remakes it. But that's kind of a tame version. Like here's like a funkier version of the same card. Sorry about the glare. But isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like artwork. It's like actual art.
I love this. So you've got, look at the wiffle ball display over there. I mean, like, who doesn't love, first of all, a box of baseballs would be like irresistible just to reach in and grab a baseball, but a wiffle ball display like you would see at Ladue Pharmacy or something.
Right.
Right.
Good reference.
Yeah, super cool. And then I see Nolan Arenado over your right shoulder. The new Cardinal.
Talking about pinching yourself, right, Tom? Like, I mean, how surreal is it that Nolan Arenado is on the card? He's on the team. He's an actual Cardinal.
Yeah, he is, and it really has injected life into the fan base. I think the Cardinals realized they needed to do it. I mean, not that they were going to get passed by the Blues, but the Blues won the Cup. The Blues are exciting. They love the Blues. They partner with the Blues. But,
Yeah.
you want to keep your fan base excited, not only here in St. Louis, but throughout. And Arenado certainly has done that. And you're actually in a unique position in that you covered him as a Rocky. So you worked in Denver before this. What was that?
Yeah,
like?
it was so we have a similar career trajectory. The year I was promoted to columnist at the Denver Post was Nolan Arenado's first year in the majors, 2013. So I started writing about him when he was the new kid on the block and watched him play. I mean, it was just a treat, and that's one of the most beautiful ballparks too. If you've ever been to Coors Field in Colorado, it's just so much fun to watch a game. And he put on a show. They might not win the game, but you would see something amazing almost every game from Nolan Arenado, and now he's here in our town.
I'm not a big home run derby guy, to be honest. I think it's just batting practice, but I might watch this one. I mean, they're going to have the All-Star game at Coors Field. That's pretty ridiculous.
I did a story for the Post-Dispatch a couple years back about the previous time the home run derby was in Colorado, 1998. What are the odds, right? The apex of whatever you want to call it, the juiced era. And our guy McGuire was in the home run derby. And I joked in the article that someday they'll be searching the intergalactic netherworld and they'll identify the baseball that McGuire hit during that home run derby.
Now, I think the first time I met you probably was just in passing because I covered Mizzou basketball. And you were part of that group. Tell us about that experience.
I was a student manager at Mizzou. I was a student at Clayton High School, and our athletic director was the great Rich Grauer, the famed coach at DeSmet and then SLU. And his son, Brian, was the three-point threat for the Tigers. And basically, I asked Mr. Grauer to put in a good word for me. And, I don't think I was qualified, but because the point guard's dad said I was, suddenly I was a manager for the Mizzou basketball team. Quinn Snyder was in his first year, and I really hit it off with him. We keep in touch to this day, to be honest, and he's doing great things in Utah. But it was such a fun job. I mean, you're kind of like a fly on the wall for the basketball team, and they had Keon Dooling and Kareem Rush and Clarence Gilbert shooting from the parking lot, and just a bunch of fun, a lot of great memories.
Man, I had so much fun with those teams. Josh Kroenke was on that team, and Josh, and boy, I mean, we can talk about his dad, I guess, if we want to. But Josh, super cool guy. I always liked Josh.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, and not getting too inside baseball here, but you and I grew up around a lot of, if I may, wealthy people. And some of them can be jerks. Some of them can be very, very cool. And Josh is very cool. He's one of those guys, if you're sitting at a meal with him or sitting at a bar, you wouldn't know that his family was a family of billionaires unless someone whispered it in your ear. And that's a pretty cool trait.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to stay away from Stan Kroenke because I think it's just so I've kind of gone down the path so many times. And at this point, I'm just going to let the court handle that business and just, and lay the hammer down when they have to, whenever that is. So I'll just deal with that when it is. But like back to that Mizzou basketball team, that was a really, really good team. So that means your first year was 99-2000, right?
Yeah, I was a sophomore in college.
Gotcha. So let's see. So 01, 02, 03. So this probably was when you were gone by then, but my first play-by-play for Mizzou was 2003.
Okay.
Their opener was in Detroit. I got asked to fill in for Mike Kelly, and I'm just like blown away with the opportunity. Hard to believe it was 18 years ago. And they were ranked 5th in the country, and they played at Oakland University in Detroit for the first game because AJ and Paulding were there. Yeah. And I remember calling that game, and you ever so you can relate to this, probably writing the first column for the Post-Dispatch or first column for the Denver Post. I almost felt like I was floating in the air, and I'm looking at myself like, is this really happening? Like, am I calling play-by-play for Missouri basketball, like the team that I grew up rooting for and went to Norm Stewart's basketball camp, and Norm Stewart's across the court calling the game on TV, and what is happening right now? Oh, yeah, I better concentrate on the game. Like, my mind was just swimming. Like, did you ever find yourself in that situation?
That's a really cool way of describing it because yeah, it's that balance. Like clearly you're working hard and you're going to do the best play-by-play you can possibly do that night, and simultaneously, simultaneously you're an observer, you're a St. Louisan, you're a Missourian, you're a sports lover. But I also think that part of you is infused into your work, and that makes your work even that much better. And I'm not saying that you and I couldn't worked for the Seattle newspaper and the Seattle KMOX, we would learn the history of that town. But of course, there's something special having it, part of your childhood, part of your upbringing.
It really is amazing. And again, for young people, anybody watching and who watches on replay, I hope that you capture that. And that I feel like that's one thing that Benjamin and I have in common. While the job is tough, and I'm not going to lie. I mean, and Benjamin will know there's some tough nights where you're really grinding. But, having that sort of little kid in you is very healthy, and it's good to do, and it's important, and it makes the job even better. And I remember, by the way, that was a very wild game where Missouri won the game 90-85. It was like up and down the floor. Missouri was a really good team, but Oakland University played in this little gym up in Detroit. Yeah. And so we're all kind of crammed in. So it was like my engineer, Gary Link, me, and then sitting next to me was a writer for the Kansas City Star by the name of Wright Thompson.
My man, Wright Thompson. Who
might be like one of the handful of best writers in the country right now. And, it's cool to think back on that. Like, of all people to sit next to me was Wright Thompson, who turned out to be outstanding. I know that you have – yeah, go ahead.
I was sorry to jump in, but he was a mentor of mine. He was a few years older than I was in college, and we were on the same staff of the New Orleans Times-Picayune from in 2002, my first job. So I always like to think back to that staff. We had a lot of fun young talent and good goofballs on the staff all at once, kind of before they took their next steps in their career.
Derek Gould wrote for the Times-Picayune, but he was in St. Louis at that time that you were there. But that's a pretty cool pipeline. Well, Mizzou just has a great school. I mean, just a great journalism school. You can just go right down the list of all the great writers out there. Are you proud of that, Benjamin? It sounds like you all keep in touch. You're pretty tight fraternity there.
There's no question. And Vahe Gregorian who's now at the Kansas City Star, used to be at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He and Bernie Miklas, when I was a teenager and in college, they were so nice to me, and it stuck with me. And to this day, I'm not trying to show off here, but like I love getting to know the guys and girls that are at the University of Missouri School of Journalism today, and kind of passing along some knowledge and some stories and trying to help them. And at some point, we'll talk about my Cardinals book, but I wrote it with and the intern. I say intern, he was like my partner in crime. Eli Letterman is his name, no relation to Dave. He was part of this process, and he had just graduated Mizzou journalism. So it was like, I don't want to say it was a job, but I gave him his first job in journalism.
That's super cool. I love that stuff. And, I feel the same pull towards Indiana, but this is more about you than me. And we'll talk about IU at another time. But I
love IU. I respect IU.
I know
we have mutual friends.
We do.
Yeah. Definitely.
But I know you. I have such a huge admiration for the group of all of you that write and come out of the University of Missouri. It's pretty special. And columnists for the Post-Dispatch, and you have a great group of people there, and at the Post-Dispatch. And you know how I feel about newspapers. I try to say it as much as possible. And I love the digital edition, but I am a newspaper guy. I actually just at KMOX emptied my backpack this morning. And it was like all newspapers. So I'm like, this is like 2 Sundays ago. We recycle. But I really appreciate all that you do. And as mentioned, and I want to spend the second half of our talk talking about the Cardinals and the great history of the team. You are not only writing columns for the Post-Dispatch, but you're also an author. You've written books, and your latest is 11 and 11. And I think this is, a very – I'd put it in the top 5 sports stories in St. Louis of all time. I hate putting one in front of the other, but the president at the time, Barack Obama, said it himself, the greatest comeback team in the history of baseball. We got to witness it here, and you've written about them in a very, very well done book that's going to be available everywhere, Benjamin.
Yeah, I mean, quite frankly, from a writing standpoint, it's the thing I'm most proud of, and we just had a daughter, and I wanted to write it for her, so when she got older, she could say, "My daddy did this." So I worked so hard on it, and yeah, I mean,
Let
shameless
me see.
plug.
Let me see.
This is it, 11 and 11, and I interviewed 60 people for it, everyone from ball players on the Cardinals to the former governor of Missouri to the dancing granny from the Some Nights YouTube video. And I just poured my heart into it and wanted to pay homage to St. Louis. I wanted to capture what David Freese means to us as a city, as sports fans. And there's some great quotes in there from a particular KMO X man as well.
Oh my
Tom
gosh, my goodness,
Yeah.
I'm in the book. Very, very cool. Let me tip this to you, my friend. I always have a cold.
Oh, yeah.
What do you got going on?
I've got a Nelly.
Oh my gosh, look at this. He's got the Nelly version.
Oh, you got it. Look at that.
I got the can of Bud here.
We're the most St. Louis dudes possible.
I just need a Joya's sandwich or something, or order some emos.
Right. And somebody to ask you where you went to high school.
That's right, which I might do here shortly for the girls to order them dinner, as you'll find with your daughter, and she's gorgeous, by the way, beautiful, beautiful baby. You'll find that Emos is an easy call. Emos, toasted Rav, and a salad. Everyone's covered. We're good to go. Okay, not a sponsor of the show. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh, just the best pizza, though. Yeah.
Yeah. So Emo's pitchman, David Freese, is a huge part of this book, and I know that is the coolest part of the story, to be honest. I mean, the comeback is great. Tony La Russa's final year, rides off into the sunset, is great. But the David Freese story is amazing. I mean, what did you learn kind of weaving your way through putting this book together?
I've always wanted to write a book on David Freese and the 2011 Cardinals because for many reasons. I'm from here. I'm a sports writer. I love a good sports story, and this is maybe the greatest sports story, at least from a baseball standpoint, or of all time, you could argue. They did things in Game 6 that had never been done before in the history of this great game. But David Freese is so fascinating because what he did, what he accomplished, was superhuman. But he is just the most human ever. He's just a regular guy. He battles demons like a lot of us do in society. He's been in some dark places. He's been in some bright places. And he's very honest and candid and just like a nice guy. And I interviewed everyone from one of the police officers that arrested him for a DUI. And then later on watched him, hit the home run in Game 6. And he shared some stories, and some of his closest friends, the guy whose couch David Freese stayed on during the playoff. I mean, that sums it up, right? How much of a regular dude is David Freese? During the 2011 playoffs, he slept on his buddy's couch during the playoffs. I mean, it's just mind-blowing. And after Game 6, David Freese, he goes back to this. They're in Brentwood Forest. He goes back to this apartment, and no one's home because everyone's out celebrating David Freese. But he's just sitting there and he's watching TV, and these guys stumble into the apartment 3 a.m., whatever time it is, had a few Budweisers, and there he is, David Freese, the guy that the whole world is talking about, the whole sports where he's sitting on the couch that he sleeps on. He's like, "Hey, what's up, guys?" Like, "What's up? We're celebrating you. You just did the most amazing thing ever." And I can't imagine, like, and I'm not saying he's Michael Jordan or anything like that, but I can't imagine like Michael Jordan, just sitting there twiddling his thumbs after a championship or a big game. That just makes that, and the fact that he's from St. Louis. If David Freese was from Botswana, we would still be praising him forever. But the fact that he's from here and that he went to the infield batting cages growing up, and he loves Lafayette High School. You've dealt with him in many amazing capacities, and actually, you shared a couple of the most touching stories in here. One time, after the World Series, you and he met a young girl who was battling some very, very tough stuff in the hospital, and he walked in with the medical jacket as Dr. Freese.
He did. He's a really special human being, and I told him recently, I think that his best accomplishment with all of that said, is actually now, with his beautiful young family and all that he's been through, and personally and professionally, he is really just a good human being. That's what I think. He's not only St. Louisan, but just a relatable dude. He's just a good guy who hit a big home run and also hit a big triple. I go back and forth on which one is better. Of course, the home run got the thing done leading off the bottom of the 11th, but the triple is incredible. Like, it was just inches from being caught by Nelson Cruz, and Freese told me on this show, actually, he said, yeah, but I hit that ball hard. He knew it was probably going to go off the wall.
I was sitting in the last row of the bleachers as a spectator of that right field area. So I watched the ball come, but everyone was standing up. And by the way, I'm just rambling like any St. Louisan. Everyone's got a Game 6 story, right?
Oh yeah.
You can go anywhere in town. Hey, tell me about Game 6, and some guy or girl, their face will light up and they'll tell you about where they watched the game. And I couldn't tell if it was caught, if it was over the wall as a homer, or if the third thing, if it hit the wall. And I'll never forget that blurry little ball rolling away. And at that moment, I knew it wasn't caught. It had either bounced out of the stands or it was a fair ball in play. And just that exhilaration. And that's what I tried to capture in here. Like, St. Louisans, they experienced two moments, the triple and the home run, that it's an exhilaration that we all share. It's a shared experience. And it's an experience that you can't buy, or no narcotic or drink or even just happy time can take you to that level, because it's an unplanned moment of bliss. And we all got to experience it twice.
It was so great. And then Game 7, so you paint this awesome picture of Freese, a story which I actually had not heard of. Freese sitting there with his buddies coming back after Game 6. And then Game 7, like, you have to do it all over again the next day. And I remember the crowd that day covering that game was kind of a little sleepy early, like, understandably so. Like, and the Rangers took the lead, and we were, everybody was up all night partying, and now you got to play a Game 7, and here's Carpenter on 3 days rest, and the Rangers get him, and what the heck's going to happen? And who comes through in the bottom of the first? David Freese, man. Unbelievable. Freese. What an amazing time.
And that's the fun of this book, is that it's basically half stories about the players and the team and half stories about St. Louisans and fans. All of them. I just wanted to get as many stories I'd never heard and put them all in one book about, because we've heard so many stories. And of course, a lot of the fan stories no one's heard, and everything from the girl who was proposed marriage to during the 9th inning of Game 7 to the guy who was serving our country on a submarine during Game 6. I just love telling these stories, and gosh, I'll throw this one at you. I don't know if you've heard about these guys, these local restaurateurs who were, I believe the restaurant was Farmhouse, and I forgot the guy's name. It's in the book, and he literally, I'm smiling because it's like so mischievous. He and his buddies put on their white suits for being chefs at a restaurant, showed up to the stadium after Game 7 and pretended they were caterers, and they got let in. They got let in. They're we're here for the post game celebrate. They're being as serious as possible, and they go in, and like the guy had like a friendship with the Pappies folks, so he had some Pappies stuff. He's like, we're helping out Pappies tonight. They're like, oh yeah, well Pappies is in there, so go, and he's serving Matt Holliday food in the celebration. Unbelievable. I love stories like that.
I love it. Oh my gosh, that night was ridiculous. I mean, just absolutely. I'm still tired from after Game 7 in 2011. That's wild. That is so cool. Yeah, that was an amazing night. Both of them were amazing nights. And you think about all the stuff that happened, you could talk about it forever. But I like this that you did this, because I'll be honest, I think that 2011, the amazing comeback, and they make the playoffs, and they'll tell you the best celebration they had the entire time was the one down in Houston, when the Braves collapsed and they knew that they had won and had made it into the playoffs. Of course, the win over the Phillies in Game 5 with Chris Carpenter going the distance against Roy Halladay, and then all the stuff in the World Series, Game 6 and 7. Kind of the forgotten series is the NLCS against the Brewers, which was really a tough series. The Brewers were really good. Remember, they used to untuck the shirts, and the Cardinals hated them. And we, all the fans and media used to, snipe at them a little bit. And they were really good. One thing that I talked about yesterday, and we're talking on this Thursday, April 15th. So yesterday, for those who catch us on replay, Yadier Molina played his 2000th game as a catcher, and he was celebrated. And one of the highlights I played on the pregame show, Benjamin, was first inning, Game 5. He hits a ball that goes almost to the freeze spot. It goes out to right, and the stadium's just pulsing because it drives in a run and gets the thing going, and they end up beating the Brewers pretty bad in Game 5, and then they win it all up in Milwaukee in Game 6. But it was Yadi who got the thing started. And, there's so many players involved in this cast, in this performance of 2011. It's hard to pick one over the other. Lance Berkman kind of said it right, didn't he, Benjamin? That, he said one time, you literally could say, if we didn't have X, we don't win the World Series. Every single person played a huge role in that.
Right. And I mentioned Michael Jordan before. We all watched The Last Dance. We were all, invigorated by Michael Jordan and the Bulls to this day. But the reality is Jordan, Pippen, Rodman, and a couple Steve Kerr jumpers, and that's everyone involved. Like you just said there, every guy, 25 guys from the Shredder to Schumacher to Ryan Terrio to Jake Westbrook. I can go on and on, but it was just my guy Adron Chambers. There's almost a whole chapter about Adron Chambers in here, getting called up to the major leagues and hitting the triple, and just literally every person contributed at least some point during this story, which makes I'm getting arm chills right now. And it's not cold in this room.
No, it's really cool. Everybody played a part in it, and it does go down as one of the great stories in baseball history. And it was Tony La Russa's final season as Cardinals manager. Now he's managing the White Sox, had himself a no-hitter last night. It's crazy. But how that all went down was kind of interesting, wasn't it? It is Tony, and he kept that quiet. He kept that under wraps the whole time, that he was going to call it a career.
Yeah. This story of the 2011 team, I think it would make a great movie because there's so many compelling, side stories as well. You talk about La Russa retiring, and his best friend, Dave Duncan, his wife was dealing with a very, very serious illness, and he stepped away from the team. And so many emotions went into this besides just the rah-rahness of baseball.
You have one of the greatest players in the history of the game, and at the time, the greatest hitter on the planet, Albert Pujols, in the back of his mind, even though he'll never admit that during that season, he wouldn't. But in the back of his mind, he's thinking, this might be it for me. You talk about the last dance, which they had with Jordan and all those guys. That was the last dance for this team. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It takes an elite mind to just put that in the rearview mirror and say, I'm here to play baseball, that could be it.
That sums up the mental aspect of sports that we can never put into numbers. We can't quantify who's the most mentally strong, but I guess it's just who's playing the best is probably also the most mentally strong. And you look at someone like Albert Pujols, who was able to take all that stress and just put it back here and go up there and hit a bunch of doubles. It's really, really impressive. And I wrote a whole chapter about Albert and hearing some of his charity work that he does and some of the behind the scenes things that we've never heard about. Some stories in here will probably bring some tears to your eyes. He touches people in different countries and different parts of the world with his kindness and large heart.
I think people like to hear that. They like to hear what these players do when they're not in uniform and that they are real people with big hearts. The Cardinals also, I mentioned Berkman. They don't do this without Berkman. He had a huge hit in Game 6, obviously, but he really lightened the mood. That team was very businesslike, and when Berkman came along, it just loosened everybody up, didn't it?
Yeah, if you're talking about characters, he might be my favorite character on that team. No offense to the shredder Nick Punto, but I just Berkman. Not only was he one of the best players, but he was one of the biggest personalities. And you're right, he just made people laugh. He made people relax. And my favorite Berkman story, if I may, is I don't know if you've heard this one. It's up, of course, in the book. When he was in AAA in New Orleans, he had an injury. He's in the Astros system. He hadn't made his major league debut yet. He had an injury, and the mascots in New Orleans were Boudreaux and Clotilde. They were nutrias. And famously, Boudreaux and Clotilde were married on the field before a game in 1998, and they had their largest crowd ever for the wedding. And the Times-Picayune covered it, and it was a huge deal in that town. Anyway, this particular day game, Berkman's just walking around the stadium below, in the bowels of the stadium, and the Clotilde outfit is just sitting there. Somebody was Boudreaux that day, but I guess Clotilde was sick. So Lance Berkman, the top prospect in the Astros organization, puts on this nutria outfit, and he goes out, and he doesn't tell anybody he's doing it, and he's the mascot. He's walking around and talking to the kids, and I guess he had some sort of I don't know, the way someone walks, or somebody from his dugout identified him. It was like, I think that's gosh dang Lance out there. Where is Lance? He's not in the dugout. And Tony Pena, of all people, former Cardinal catcher, was the New Orleans manager. And Berkman's dancing on the top of the dugout. He's like, get down, because he didn't want him to get injured more. I mean, obviously it was good enough, but he didn't want him to fall over or something. And Tony Pena is responsible for an injury via mascot.
Wow. I mean, they do all this. Berkman was so great. They do all this also without one of the iconic players really in Cardinals history, Adam Wainwright. And he said, I don't want to be a negative Nelly. He said, I'm gonna be right here as a cheerleader for this team. I actually think that he played a huge part in that team's success, kind of like Benjamin. In 2006, he became the closer because Jason Isringhausen was injured, and Izzy actually played kind of a nice support role for him. And I think he learned from that too. You can still be a champion, and you don't have to play. I mean, you can be a support guy. It's just everything just sort of came together in an amazing way. Like, how in the world could this team be 10.5 out in August? Right. And put it together and win it? It's incredible, but it takes guys like Wainwright to keep people going.
And you real quick, you of course were there at the famous Night of the Cauliflower Ear banquet, where Wainwright gives an amazing speech to the people there, saying we could do this, we could do this, and he kind of pumped everybody up. But I don't know if you know about the magical fruit snacks, but really that's the reason why the Cardinals won the World Series was Adam Wainwright. Yeah, Adam Wainwright and Kyle McClellan, your pal, my pal too. They in the NLDS at Philadelphia, they needed some runs. So Wainwright and McClellan were sidelined. They said, "Here, let's eat these magical fruit snacks. They're magical. We eat them, they'll start getting runs." They're like, "Why not?" And whoever was up, it's in the book. Whoever was up got a big hit, and they just kept eating these stupid things for weeks until Game 7 of the World Series, and putting on a bunch of calories, and it was worth every bite.
Man, crazy. You reference all the time on social media Freeze's lawn. Yeah. I would, if I were the Cardinals, I'd put you in charge of naming things around the ballpark. I love that. Freeze's lawn. Man. And you talk about it. It's actually my neighbor, used to live right here, David Hewitt, who scrambled and got that ball out in center field, which is completely insane. And I just like this book. I couldn't recommend it enough because it's kind of like a bunch of people sitting around at a party telling stories about where they were in 2011. That's the book, including all the Cardinals stuff. But it's a lot of stories you don't know that will go on forever. Like, this will go on forever for the rest of your life. You're going to hear stories about 2011, that team that you didn't know, and Benjamin's captured them in a book that is really, really great.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, it was an honor to write. And like I said, hopefully when my daughter and her generation is able to read books like this, they'll devour it and start telling their own fun stories and about the players that they're learning about. And we'll be passing it down. I always say baseball in St. Louis is like an heirloom, and we pass it down to generations, just like we would Grandpa's gold watch or something like that. And we all have Game 6 stories to share.
Man, no question. I mean, the best teams in Cardinals history, I think you got to say 67, 68, 85, 2004, and three of those teams didn't win it all.
Right.
But, there's so many great ones. Got to pick one of the Stan Musial teams, of course, that won it in the 40s. But this 11 team is, with 64, the best story. And maybe the best story. I mean, it really is. It's remarkable. It took a lot for it to happen, but it did happen. So tell me how people can get the book. I want you to sell so many of these books. This is the 10th anniversary of the 2011 World Champions. It has been a decade since the Cardinals won the World Series, and that means that we're all spoiled and we want another one. And who knows? I mean, I think this team, as we're talking right now, is a work in progress. I think they've got a shot. But anyway, how can people get this book and celebrate something that happened in 2011, a World Championship?
It's very easy. The website 11in11book.com. 11in11book.com. Just type it in 11in11book.com and you can order the book there, and I can personalize it and sign it to your buddies or your grandma or your kid, anybody you want. It'd be my honor to do that. So 11in11book.com.
Man, there's so many things about it, and we didn't even get to all the broadcasters that were involved, and our own Mike Shannon with the great call. And it's an iconic call of his, is the freeze home run. Actually, all those calls from the World Series, but it's really a special time. I get chills just talking about this because we lived it. We're kind of like in the prime of our careers, but we got to experience an amazing thing. And it's hard to believe it's been 10 years actually, but this is a great book, 11in11, absolutely worth picking up. Benjamin, Garage Happy Hour, man. I've really enjoyed having you on here. The time really flew by, but I want to say this: you've been a great supporter of this show. I mean this like from the bottom of my heart. Like you've been very supportive on social media. This was just a silly like me drinking beer in front of an iPad. It's still what it is. But I really appreciate it. I mean, it means a lot that you rooted me on, and it kind of got me fired up to get, all these great people on the show and personalities and people who tell the story of St. Louis sports. And the whole point of this show is just to take people's minds off the pandemic, really.
Right.
So I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, you're welcome. You do a fantastic job, and you have such knowledge of the sports in our town and such a passion, and obviously you handle it in such a professional way. You kick butt, man, and I'm proud to call you a friend and a colleague.
Thanks, buddy. It's just awesome to have you in town and working with us, and I appreciate it very much. 11in11, 11in11book.com is the website. We are sponsored by Bommarito Automotive Group. We're going to have a commercial that I want you to stay for, Benjamin. You don't have to, but if people are interested in a car, I want you to check that out. But I also want to tell people about some people that are also special to me, and that's Well First Health from SSM Health Plan. Ozzy and I, not to name drop, but Ozzy Smith and I have both talked about Well First Medicare Advantage plans. You can just go to wellfirsthealth.com and it'll take you right to it. They are outstanding from SSM Health Plan. I got a little project in the works, Benjamin, called Golf Happy Hour.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Happy Hour.
We're creating a happy hour kingdom here. We're going one by one. So now we've got Golf Happy Hour. I don't know what's next. Barbecue Happy Hour? Maybe. I don't know.
Count me in on that.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But that's coming up. So it's out there if people want to check it out. But pretty soon we're going to really ramp up Golf Happy Hour and have some fun. Benjamin, thank you so much for the visit. I really appreciate it. Good luck with the book. Super cool idea. And I love 10 Hochman and the background you have there, and your work at the Post-Dispatch is much appreciated in this town. So thank you.
Thanks. It's a bunch of fun to do. Nice talking with you.
Thank you. One of the great ones there, Benjamin Hochman from the Post-Dispatch. Garage Happy Hour, we're going to be off next week. I'm going to be on vacation, but we're going to come back on April 29th with a phenomenal show. Cannot wait to bring these two guys in. I'll hold it until we get a little closer, and then I'll announce our two guests. Thank you to Sam Masterson, our digital content coordinator, and we will see you soon on the Garage Happy Hour.
At Bomarito, shop thousands of new vehicles. Get more for your trade. The Bomarito nationwide warranty, 10 years, 200,000 miles, and the best service after the sale. Bomarito, Missouri's #1 automotive group, open 24/7 at Bomarito.com.